Monte Carlo, the crock of gold that lies at journey's end, the glittering prize that awaits the finishers in the Rally Monte Carlo. The 26th renewal of this midwinter marathon, unique event in the motorsporting calendar, once again ends in the blue skies and sunshine of a Monaco winter. The light has a special quality, the sea a special blue, and overall an atmosphere that affords a striking contrast to the rigors of the rally itself. The 2,500-mile trip across Europe, always exhausting and often hazardous in the extreme. Perched high above the harbour in Old Monaco, and looking out onto the blue Mediterranean, lies the palace of the princes of Monaco, which stands on the site of the 12th century Saracen citadel built by the Genoese, a Ruritanian castle against which the colourful armed forces of the present ruler, Prince Rainier III, parade like toy soldiers. Pleasing lack of urgency, typical of the Côte d'Azur, marks the changing of the guard. And elsewhere the same spirit is observed in the people of the Principality as they sit in the sunshine and sip an aperitif in one of the many open-air cafes. But there are more serious things in life, le rallye, for instance. In the courtyard before the palace, the stage is set for the final scene of the Monte Carlo Rally 1956, the prize presentation, this year made in the absence of the Prince by Monsieur Henri Noume, Prime Minister. With 7 major awards in 1955, much was expected of Sunbeam, a promise amply redeemed. For the first time in the long history of the Rally Monte Carlo, the team award was won outright by the Sunbeam team with their 3rd success in 4 years. A brilliantly consistent performance that gains them the Charles Faroux trophy for all time. Here, against a background as beautiful as the cars themselves, are the champions. Peter Harper, David Humphrey and Peter Elbra. Jimmy Ray, John Cutts and John Waddington. Sheila Van Dam with Ann Hall and Yvonne Jackson. But let's go back to the beginning, shall we? So over to Stockholm, 2,600 miles from Monte Carlo, where team manager Norman Garrard believes in keeping his crews fit. Not often you see rally drivers walking. Stockholm is but one of the 7 starting points this year. The others, Glasgow, Munich, Lisbon, Athens, Rome and Paris. But at best they're all a gamble. Sunbeams settle for Stockholm, and snow and icy roads face them on their initial stage westwards to Oslo. Meanwhile the weather was kinder elsewhere. Rome starters set off in sunshine, those from Lisbon in rain. Munich was cold and clear, as was Glasgow and Paris, and the 16 starters from Athens left under a clear Grecian sky. As the Sunbeams set out over the flat countryside of Sweden, over straight but icy roads, the rally is on. 2,000 miles to go before all routes converge on Paris for the final 600-mile regularity test to Monte Carlo. A test of man and machine that no amount of laboratory tests or weeks upon a proving ground can reproduce. In the 3 nights and 4 days of the rally, competing cars face every hazard over every type of road in every sort of weather. A rugged trial run off under the pitiless glare of worldwide publicity in the press, on radio, newsreels and television. Results are what count, and no excuses are allowed. There's Sheila on her way. And behind Sheila, Peter Harper presses on. Yes, Peter, it was a table on that bike. We don't know why either. That's stop in any language. But on we go, some 350 cars and their crews, of every nationality, striving for victory in one of the toughest of all motoring competitions. For the manufacturer, many are the lessons to be learned from the rally, and the fantastic record of successes in the post-war years have justified the faith of the Roots Group in their products, Humber, Hillman and Sunbeam. Trafikspegel, in English a traffic mirror. In Sweden, it's all done by mirrors, and a very good idea, too, to see just exactly what's coming round the bend. A coal truck, for instance, but these are normal hazards, and far worse awaits us in the Alpes-Maritimes. Nevertheless, we are grateful to the Swedes, thoughtful, efficient, charming and considerate hosts. They think of everything and prepare for all eventualities. Ambulances and grit for the snowbound roads as Raymond Baxter goes on his way. And even a plentiful supply of snow to cool off seized brakes. Still they go along the frozen winter roads of Sweden, as with some 10 hours of motoring behind them in 22 degrees of frost, the Stockholm contingent face their first night on the road. So night falls and the cameras are blind, but all over Europe headlights stab through the darkness as cars and crews race onwards along the devious route to their eventual goal. Now at Helsingborg, 12 hours later, the ferry comes in. Peter Harper backs the Sunbeam aboard for the crossing from the southern tip of Sweden into Denmark and on to the mainland of Europe. A choppy crossing, but a welcome 3-hour break. Time for a shave and a bath and a hot meal. On the road again. A watery sun shines through a sky that threatens rain, as schoolchildren gather to wave at the passing cars, a scene that is happening in every country through which the rally is routed. Peter Harper, in Sunbeam number 283, races on through a Danish village on the way to the next control at Odense. Behind comes the current holder of the Women's European Touring Championship, Sheila Van Dam, on Sunbeam number 284. Now Odense is reached. Another control and the road book must be stamped by officials of the automobile club in charge. Lateness at control points means loss of vital marks, but the Sunbeams are on time. A clean sheet on the road section is important to ensure a place in the final 90 cars that will contest the 150-mile section in the mountains, which will decide the outright winner. The weather so far is better than in previous years, but many hazards lie ahead in the fog that covers the icebound roads through the Ardennes and into Luxembourg. Now we cross the German frontier, and one more German car returns to the fatherland. Passports and road books are checked, and Sheila smilingly awaits her turn. Meanwhile, the rally takes its toll in retirements, and some bear visible signs of contact with something hard. There's a distinctly second-hand look about this Italian car. Must sell. Owner going abroad. Now through the mists of the Ardennes, where kilometre stones are painted red and black to show up clearly against the snow and the mist. The tempo quickens, the routes have converged, and the regularity test from Paris onwards is on. Timed throughout the 600 miles of ice and fog, the cars and their tired crews are joined in a grim race against the clock, past Chambéry, over the Col de Granier, the Col de Courcheron, the Col de Port, down to Grenoble. Oblivious of the wild and desolate scenery of the French Alps, southward they go, twisting and turning round blind corners. The normal hazard of snow replaced by thick patches of fog and icebound roads. The last lap of the rally has become a motor race on open roads. Over the Col de Cabre, and Peter Harper tops the summit and disappears into the fog on the long descent to the broad and splendid valley of the Durance. A little better going, perhaps, but a murderously tight time schedule leaves no time for a breather. The road continues to twist and turn. Motoring is hard work, and there's still another night to go. Now we overtake Fraser's Sunbeam, one of 5 privately entered Sunbeams, all of whom finished within the time limit. The camera car goes ahead, passing some of the weary men who for 72 consecutive hours have driven their willing cars to the limit over the roads of Europe. But still, the Sunbeam team remains intact. Over the L'Escale Bridge at Chateau Arnoux that spans the rolling river Durance. And here's the Humber Super Snipe that started from Glasgow, crewed by 3 sergeants from Hendon Police College. On they press over the winding roads of the Maritime Alps to Sisteron before they climb up to Digue. Then from Digue to Barème, on through Barème to Entrevaux, the winter Route des Alpes so well known to veterans of the rally. Familiar names, familiar places to the Sunbeam crews. Over these very roads and others like them all over Europe, the team drivers have driven their Sunbeams to victory, carrying forward a 50-year-old tradition of successes. Onwards to the sun, through sleepy little French villages, and Sheila Van Dam driving her last rally for Sunbeam. Perhaps she thinks of her first Monte back in 1951. Now she is to retire, but she does so with a vast collection of trophies to mark her meteoric career. Lasting fame attends Sheila and her Sunbeam, and with her goes our deep affection. We'll miss you, Sheila. The wheels still turn, reeling off the few remaining miles of the 2,600. There's many a slip, and there's another to swell the list of non-arrivals. Now the route has switched into a tangle of twisting turns along little-used side roads through Saint-André, Lariane, La Trinité, La Lague, on the 5th of the 7 special stages from Paris to the Principality. 28 never-ending miles to crews who've spent 3 nights and 4 days on the road. Then, suddenly, journey's end is in sight, the La Tourbe Control. 2,000 feet below us to the right, the Mediterranean sparkles in the sunlight, and the white yachts ride proudly at anchor. Now the braking test, a 1,200-yard downhill stretch round several hairpins, and then, at a signal, you stop, or you try to. Then the middle corniche, and here we are at last. Beneath the arrival arch, the cars check in. Tired but happy crews in travel-stained cars. A German driver gets a nice welcome. Sheila checks in. She lost 7 minutes in the dense fog on the Col de Granier. Couldn't drive fast enough in the fog, she says. But nor could 200 others, Sheila. Peter Harper and his crew bring in their Sunbeam. Now, beyond the Arrivée Arch along the harbour front, scrutineers wait to check that seals are still intact, that everything still works. Starter, horns, lights, windscreen wipers. Marks are lost for components that are not in working order, but everything works on the Sunbeams. Into the Parc Fermé go the cars, and drivers switch off with a sigh of relief. Monte Carlo awaits them, a meal and a bath, a change of clothing. But first perhaps a drink, something sparkling out of a gold-necked bottle, a drink they've so deservedly earned. Later, perhaps a visit to the casino. For those who have broken their cars, there's always a chance they can break the bank as well. Look out, Monte Carlo, here they come. Of the 351 entries in the rally, 233 cars only have reached their destination in time. Figures which speak for themselves. and of these the best placed 90 cars will do battle in the forbidding cloud-capped mountains that lie behind the Principality, a dramatic and desperate battle unique in rally history, over 150 miles of narrow secondary roads, through dark ravines, over mountain passes, through remote alpine villages, against time and the elements. Great names in the rally world are there: Louis Chiron, Ken Wharton, and of course Jimmy Ray, who with John Cutts and John Waddington have brought their Sunbeam into 17th place. Peter Harper, David Humphrey and Peter Elbra walk along to the Sunbeam they've brought into 4th position. Now the cars move slowly up to the starting point. A dull, overcast day promises treacherously wet surfaces and poor visibility in the mountains. The road glistens in the rain as an Italian car with a Spanish driver sets off into the mountains. The stage is set. Cars and drivers of all nations, cars of all sizes, taking part in the final scene of a drama watched by a worldwide audience. A German car gets away. Now Jimmy Ray comes up to the line. He's followed by Peter Harper. Providing all goes well, Sunbeam should hold their lead for the team award. But who knows what lies ahead. Good luck to you and your crew, Peter. Jimmy Ray takes the Sunbeam safely round one of the countless turns, as slowly but surely the road twists higher and ever higher. The pace begins to tell. A German car follows on the heels of a Frenchman in this rally which has somehow turned into a motor race. Still they climb. The crew is oblivious of the majestic scene that lies about them. One mistake is enough. Everything depends on these 150 miles. The road winds up the Col de Castillon. On through Moulinet. Now we're up in the snow belt. Corner follows corner. As if it weren't difficult enough, mist and snow harass the drivers in their mad race against time and the unknown element of secret checks. Peter Harper still goes strong, the willing Sunbeam responding to his every call. Sheena Van Dam, for once a spectator of the drama in which so often she has played the lead, waves to a passing competitor. Now the cars show signs of the struggle. Wings and coachwork bear evidence of this fantastic dice. Highest point on the circuit, the snow-covered Col de Turini. Chiron on the descent from Turini. Sliding over the treacherous snow and ice, drivers head south, fighting their cars over every inch of the brutal testing circuit designed to find the rally winners. And Harper's Sunbeam is still well up. Still high in the Alps. The Col de l'Orme and the Col de Bras still lie ahead. The mountain still shrouded in swirling mist. At well-nigh impossible averages, the final 90 fight it out on the final test, the graveyard of so many hopes. Of the 90 that set out from Monte Carlo, ominous gaps in the field proclaim the casualties, but the Sunbeams are still going strong. Still the mist prevails, but we are down below the snow level. The worst is over. On the descent, a sadly reduced field speeds on its way back to Monte Carlo and the finishing point. Nearly there. Into Monte Carlo. Battered cars, their final effort over, wind slowly back to Monaco. Excited crowds line the streets to applaud their favorites and gaze awestruck at the damage these final car-breaking miles have caused. Peter Harper thinks he's taken the Sunbeam through clean. One by one, the cars come home after their long mountain ordeal. Of the 90 that set off, no less than 14 crashed on the circuit and did not return. And of those that did, 50% bear the scars of battle. Even Peter Harper's Sunbeam demolished a petrol pump en route. That shell, that was, said his crew, as Harper swept on his meteoric course. Jimmy Ray returns the Sunbeam unscathed. With veteran John Cutts and John Waddington, Jimmy brings the Sunbeam up from 17th to 11th place, a magnificent performance. Cuff Harrison, rally and racing driver, returns to base, a great sportsman and a great driver. Now it really is over. Nothing now to do but wait. Wait for the results that soon will be flashed to all corners of the world. For, and never forget it, the rally is news. And when it comes, Sunbeams have done it again. For the third time in 4 years, a nominated team of 3 cars has captured the team prize, the coveted Charles Faroux Trophy, and this time it's theirs for good. Peter Harper finishes 3rd in general classification, behind 2 cars of nearly twice the Sunbeam's size. Jimmy Ray is 11th, and Sheila's place, though lower, is high enough to secure the team trophy, to emphasize a record that for sheer consistent brilliance may never be equaled. Good driving has played its part, and Britain can remember with pride the men and women who planned and won so worthwhile a victory. Congratulations to the team, Peter Harper, David Humphrey and Peter Elbra. To Jimmy Ray, John Cutts and John Waddington. To Sheila Van Dam, Anne Hall and Yvonne Jackson. A tribute to the cars themselves, standard production models, and to the men who built them. So to a brilliant team of champions goes the Charles Faroux Trophy for all time.